It was a normal day on Earth, the kind of day where people went about their daily routines without a care in the world. Cities buzzed with life, children played in parks, and the sun shone brightly across the globe. But little did anyone know, deep beneath the surface of the oceans, something incredible was about to unfold. Far below the waters of the Pacific, a team of scientists and explorers worked tirelessly on an underwater expedition. They had been tasked with studying ancient shipwrecks, remnants of a time long past. But as they scoured the ocean floor, they stumbled upon something entirely unexpected, an object that didn't belong. It was a massive metallic structure, unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was buried beneath layers of rock and sediment, its surface etched with strange symbols and markings. Dr. Emma Steele, the leader of the expedition, felt a shiver run down her spine as her team uncovered the object. Her flashlight beam reflected off the smooth metallic surface. "What is this?" she whispered under her breath. The object was massive, easily the size of a small city block, and it seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. It wasn't just a piece of junk or debris. It was something far more advanced. Dr. Steele ordered her team to carefully clear away the surrounding rock, their tools scraping against the hard surface. As they dug deeper, the object's strange markings began to reveal themselves, glowing faintly in the dim light of their underwater equipment. "Look at this," said one of the team members, John, pointing at the markings. "This is alien, right?" Dr. Steele frowned. The symbols didn't look like anything they had encountered in human history. But one thing was certain: the artifact didn't belong on Earth. The designs and craftsmanship were far too advanced for anything humans could make. She tapped into her communicator, sending a message to her superior back at the research station. "We found something. It's big, and it's not from Earth." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Dr. Steele's heart raced. Her team had made a groundbreaking discovery, something that could change the fate of humanity forever. The message was clear. This was more than just a scientific discovery. This was proof that humans were not alone in the universe. As the team worked, a strange humming noise filled the water. It started off faint, barely audible, but soon it grew louder. The object seemed to react to their presence, and the energy it emitted began to intensify. The markings on its surface shifted, glowing more brightly, almost as if they were alive. Suddenly, the entire structure shook. Dr. Steele and her team stumbled, nearly losing their balance. The object was coming to life. "We need to get out of here," Dr. Steele ordered. "Now." But before they could move, a massive force surged from the object. A blinding light engulfed the area, and the water around them seemed to boil. The team scrambled, but it was no use. The light was overwhelming, and within moments, the entire crew was knocked unconscious. When Dr. Steele awoke, she found herself lying on the cold floor of a research station miles away from the ocean site. Her head throbbed with pain, and her vision blurred as she tried to sit up. The station was silent, but there was a strange energy in the air. Something had changed. "Doc, are you all right?" John's voice broke through the fog of her mind. She looked up to see him standing at the door, his face pale with fear. He quickly rushed to her side. "What happened?" She groaned, still trying to process what had occurred. We were all knocked out. Something happened to the artifact. It's like it triggered a massive energy surge." Dr. Steele rubbed her temples. "What do you mean, a surge?" John looked around nervously, glancing at the other members of the team, who were all waking up in similar confusion. "We're getting reports. People all over the world, scientists, researchers, are seeing strange readings. Some of the military satellites are picking up abnormal energy patterns. And the artifact signal, it's been detected again. It's not just down there anymore. It's reaching out." Dr. Steele's heart raced. The artifact, the thing they had uncovered, was somehow connected to a much larger event. This wasn't just a simple find. It was something that could change everything. They had unwittingly opened a door, and what lay beyond it was unknown. "What do we do?" John asked, his voice trembling. "We need to contact the Global Council. This changes everything. Whatever is happening, it's not just about us anymore. The world needs to know." Dr. Steele stood up, her mind racing with possibilities. She knew that they had just made contact with something far beyond human understanding. The object wasn't just alien. It was a technology that humanity was never meant to find. It had been hidden for a reason. But now that it was awake, there was no going back. As Dr. Steele and her team prepared to report their findings, the first signs of something much bigger began to unfold. Across the galaxy, in a distant part of space, a powerful empire watched with growing concern. The Galactic Empire, a vast and ancient force that ruled countless planets, had detected the sudden surge of energy from Earth. They knew that such a thing was impossible. Primitive humans could not have access to such technology. They were wrong. The humans had stumbled upon something that could shift the balance of power in the entire galaxy. The Empire's reaction would come swiftly, and they would stop at nothing to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. But Earth had already taken its first steps toward a new era. What would happen next? No one could say. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. The discovery of the alien artifact on Earth had sent ripples across the galaxy. What had begun as a seemingly innocent find had escalated into something far more significant than anyone on Earth could have imagined. The artifact wasn't just a relic of a lost civilization. It was a weapon, a tool of unimaginable power, and it was in the hands of a race considered primitive by the galaxy's standards. Back in the heart of the Galactic Empire, the news spread like wildfire. The Empire had eyes everywhere, and their monitoring systems had detected the surge of energy from the object beneath the ocean. It was a signal that they knew all too well, something long feared, something that had been wiped from the records of their history. Inside the Empire's vast war room, a council of high-ranking officers stood around a holographic display. The Empire was a powerful force, stretching across hundreds of systems, with advanced technology far beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of. Their warships were massive, their weapons deadly, and their soldiers were the best trained in the galaxy. Yet what they saw now on their screens sent a chill down their spines. The hologram flickered with the image of the Earth's coastline, the same coastline where the artifact had been found. But it wasn't just an artifact. They had scanned the object from orbit, and what they discovered shocked them. It wasn't merely a relic of an ancient race. It was powered by technology that had no place on a planet like Earth. General Vokar, a grizzled veteran of countless battles, paced back and forth. His voice, usually calm and authoritative, was now filled with disbelief. How is this possible? The humans could not have discovered this technology on their own. It's far too advanced. There is no record of it in our databases. A younger officer, Lieutenant Kale, stepped forward, his face tense with concern. "General, we've tracked the energy signature. It matches that of the ancient civilization known as the Navari. But that civilization was wiped out centuries ago. This technology was thought to be lost." Vokar turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. The Navari were one of the greatest races to ever exist. Their technology was unparalleled. But if these humans have found it, it means they've somehow tapped into something that should not have been accessible to them. The general's mind raced. The Navari were an ancient species, long extinct, whose power and influence had once stretched across the stars. Their disappearance had been a mystery, but their technology had been lost. The Empire had worked tirelessly to ensure that no one, especially primitive species like humans, would ever find it again. The fact that humans had unlocked it was a clear threat. "Prepare the fleet," Vokar commanded, his voice cold. "We cannot allow the humans to keep control of this. If they possess Navari technology, they must be neutralized before they can use it against us." Back on Earth, Dr. Steele and her team were unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon them. The artifact, which had once been a source of mystery, had now become a beacon, and across the stars, The Galactic Empire was preparing to act. Dr. Steele was at the forefront of humanity's response. As the lead scientist on the discovery, she had been thrust into a position she never imagined. The governments of Earth were in a frenzy, trying to understand the implications of the artifact's power. The military had mobilized, unsure of what they were facing but ready for whatever might come. The world's attention was now focused on the mysterious object and the ancient secrets it held. But Dr. Steele was concerned. The artifact was like nothing she had ever seen. Despite their best efforts, no one could fully understand its purpose or how it worked. Every attempt to reverse engineer it had resulted in failure, or worse, strange and dangerous energy surges that left her team on edge. "Are you sure this is safe?" John, one of the researchers, asked nervously as he watched the artifact pulse with unnatural light. "We've barely begun to understand it, and yet it seems to be responding to us in ways we can't control." Dr. Steele frowned, running her fingers over the smooth surface. "I don't think it's reacting to us. I think it's reacting to something else, something much bigger." She felt it then, a strange pressure in the air, almost as if something invisible was pressing down on the team. The lights in the lab flickered, and the humming noise from the artifact grew louder, vibrating in her chest. Her heart raced. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a forgotten piece of technology. It was alive. Suddenly, a message from the Global Military Command broke through the tension. "Dr. Steele, you need to get to the command center. There's been a development." On the edge of Earth's atmosphere, the first signs of the Galactic Empire's response were beginning to take shape. A massive fleet of ships, hundreds of enormous war vessels, was assembling in the void of space, hidden from the view of Earth's defense systems. These ships were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Sleek, fast, and armed with weapons capable of destroying entire cities with a single strike. In the war room of the Galactic Empire's command ship, General Volker stood before a map of Earth. His fingers hovered over the holographic display, marking the location of the artifact. His fleet was ready, and Earth would soon feel the Empire's full might. "We must act quickly," Volker said, his voice firm. "We cannot allow these primitive humans to keep this technology. If they unlock the full potential of the Navori artifact, they will become a threat to the entire galaxy. We will take control of the situation before they even realize what's happening." His lieutenant nodded, pulling up the details of their plan. "Our fleet is ready, General. We'll have Earth under control in a matter of hours. The humans won't even know what hit them." Volker turned away from the map, staring out into the blackness of space. The humans had stumbled upon something they were never meant to find. And now, the Empire would make sure they never used it. The Galactic Empire's fleet, a vast armada of warships, loomed silently in the dark reaches of space. The ships were designed to strike with precision, their weapons capable of reducing entire cities to rubble in a matter of seconds. But the fleet's commanders, high-ranking officers like General Volker, underestimated the humans. They believed the primitive race of Earth could be crushed easily, just like any other species that had dared to stand in the Empire's way. But what they didn't know was that Earth was not as defenseless as they assumed. In the command center of Earth's largest military facility, Dr. Steele sat at the heart of a newly established task force. Since the discovery of the artifact, Earth's global powers had scrambled to react. National borders meant little when an alien empire was bearing down on their planet, intent on erasing everything humanity had built. The military had mobilized, and the world's top scientists and strategists had come together to form an unprecedented alliance: Earth's final defense. Dr. Steele's mind was a whirlwind of calculations and theories. The artifact was the key, the only thing standing between humanity and the overwhelming might of the Empire. She had been working around the clock, trying to unlock its secrets. But one thing was becoming clear: this was not just technology. It was a weapon of unimaginable power. The artifact's energy surges were building, and it was only a matter of time before they reached their peak. "Dr. Steele, we need your help," a voice called from behind. It was General Knox, the leader of Earth's military defense. Dr. Steele turned, standing up to face him. His face was grim, his eyes filled with determination. "What's the situation?" "We've detected the Empire's fleet moving toward us. We've run simulations, and the outcome is bleak. They outgun us at every turn. But we got one chance to make a stand, and that's where you come in." She knew exactly what he meant. The artifact could be their only hope. "I'm ready," she said, "but I need more time with the artifact. I can't guarantee we'll fully understand it, but I believe I can help you build something with its power." General Knox's eyes narrowed. "What do you need?" "Every available ship. I need Earth's supercarriers, the largest ships we have. I believe the artifact's energy will amplify their power. If we can harness it, we may stand a chance." General Knox hesitated for a moment. The supercarriers were humanity's pride, their last line of defense. Deploying them against the Empire's fleet was a risky move, but at this point, they had no other choice. He nodded. "You'll have them, Dr. Steele. Just make sure this works." In space, the Empire's fleet was rapidly closing in. Their weapons were primed, their engines ready to strike. General Volker stood at the helm of his flagship, watching Earth through the cold, endless void of space. He knew the humans were unprepared for what was about to happen. The Navari artifact had been retrieved from their planet, and he was confident that Earth's defenses wouldn't be enough to stop the Empire's wrath. "Prepare the fleet for the assault," Volker commanded, his voice a low rumble. But as his officers carried out the orders, something caught Volker's attention. One of the reconnaissance ships had detected an anomaly, a massive energy buildup near Earth. The signature was unlike anything they had encountered before. It wasn't the Empire's technology, but it wasn't anything human either. It was a strange, powerful energy wave, unlike anything in their database. "General, we've just detected an enormous energy surge coming from Earth's surface. It's unlike anything we've seen," a communications officer reported, his voice full of alarm. Volker's face twisted into a grimace. "What is it?" The officer hesitated. "We don't know, but it's building rapidly. It's powerful, too powerful for any primitive species to harness." Volker's eyes narrowed. The humans were up to something, but what? Had they already unlocked the artifact's full power? Could they be threatening the Empire before the battle even began? "Send a signal to the fleet," Volker ordered. "Get ready for full-scale engagement. The humans must be crushed before they get any further." Back on Earth, Dr. Steele was putting the final touches on the weapon that would hopefully turn the tide in humanity's favor. The supercarriers, each one a marvel of human engineering, were being outfitted with the technology she had unlocked from the artifact. Each ship was connected to the artifact's energy output, their power cores now augmented by the alien force. The lights in the control room flickered as Dr. Steele stood before a massive holographic display. The energy readings were off the charts. She felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up as the energy surged through the ship. There was no turning back now. The humans were ready to fight. "Everything's in place," she said, speaking to the commanding officers in the room. "Once we deploy the supercarriers, the artifact's power will be unleashed on the Empire's fleet. We can't afford to waste any time." Outside Earth's atmosphere, a fleet of 800,000 supercarriers moved into position. Each one was a massive warship, bristling with weapons, and now powered by the energy of the artifact itself. They were Earth's final line of defense, and their mission was clear: stop the Empire before they could strike. At the helm of the largest supercarrier, the Vanguard, General Knox stood in silence, his eyes focused on the massive holographic image of the approaching Empire fleet. He had one chance to protect humanity. "Now," he said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "launch everything." In the blink of an eye, the supercarriers surged forward. The energy from the artifact coursed through their weapons, turning them into unstoppable forces. Massive laser cannons fired. Ion cannons erupted in brilliant blue streams of energy, and missiles, thousands of them, flew toward the incoming Empire fleet. The first wave of fire crashed into the Empire's fleet, taking out entire ships in seconds. Volker's eyes widened as his ship was rocked by the unexpected assault. The humans were fighting back, and they were far stronger than he had anticipated. "Report," Volker shouted, his voice full of rage. "We're taking heavy damage, General. Their weapons are more powerful than anything we've encountered," an officer cried out. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were striking with a power the Empire hadn't even dreamed possible. The Empire's fleet, which had once been an unstoppable force, was now fighting for its life against the unexpected might of humanity. The battle between Earth and the Galactic Empire had erupted into full-scale chaos. The humans, using their newly empowered supercarriers, had dealt the first blow with an intensity that shook the Empire to its core. But the Empire was far from defeated. In fact, this was just the beginning of their retaliation. On the bridge of General Volker's flagship, the Dominion, alarms blared as his fleet tried to recover from the initial assault. The Empire's ships, built for domination, were now reeling from the unexpected power of Earth's weapons. The force behind the humans' attacks was unprecedented, far beyond anything the Empire had anticipated. But the Empire's strength was not something easily broken. The question now was how quickly they could adapt, and how ruthless they could be in response. Volker slammed his fist against the command console. "We cannot let these humans think they have the upper hand. We have underestimated them, but that will end today." The Empire's fleet had suffered heavy casualties, but they still outnumbered the human ships by a vast margin. The battle was far from over. The Empire would show the humans what true power looked like. "We need to retaliate with everything we've got," Volker ordered, his eyes burning with determination. "Lock onto the human supercarriers. Focus all fire on their largest ships. We will not stop until Earth is nothing but ash." As Volker barked orders, his fleet moved into position, their weapons powering up for a devastating counterattack. The massive destroyers and dreadnoughts unleashed hell, their energy blasts tearing through space toward Earth's defenses. The Empire's fleet wasn't going to wait around to figure out how the humans had gotten so powerful. They were going to crush them, no matter the cost. Back on Earth, General Knox watched as the first wave of Empire firepower reached the human fleet. The supercarriers, still powered by the artifact, retaliated with everything they had. The sky above Earth was a storm of flashing lights as the two forces collided, explosions echoing in space. The humans had held their ground for now, but Knox knew that this was only the beginning. They had to hold off the Empire long enough to learn how to use the artifact's power more effectively. The battle was far from a simple clash of ships. It was a struggle for survival. Earth's forces were determined to defend their home, but they lacked the experience and firepower of the Empire's vast military. The humans had one advantage: the artifact's mysterious power. And that was all they could rely on. "We can't afford to lose any more ships," Knox said through gritted teeth. "The artifact's energy output is reaching critical levels. If we don't figure out how to control it, we could lose everything." Dr. Steele stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the battlefield. "I'm working on it. We need to understand how to stabilize the artifact's energy. If we can do that, we might have a chance to overwhelm the Empire before they adapt to our weapons." But with each passing second, the Empire's fleet grew bolder. The humans were holding their ground, but not without sacrifice. Supercarriers were falling one by one, their energy shields flickering out as enemy fire rained down upon them. Earth's defenses were being tested in ways they had never been before. In space, the situation was becoming increasingly dire. The Empire had brought in reinforcements, including some of their most formidable warships. The largest dreadnoughts, equipped with planet-destroying weapons, lined up behind the smaller ships, preparing for a decisive strike. The Empire knew they could not afford to let this battle drag on. It was now or never. As Earth's supercarriers exchanged fire with the enemy fleet, The full might of the Empire descended on them. The dreadnoughts fired their massive energy cannons, sending beams of light streaking toward the human ships. Entire fleets of smaller ships were wiped out in seconds, but the supercarriers pressed on, returning fire with all their might. The tension was thick. It was a brutal exchange, and neither side was willing to give an inch. Each side knew that the key to victory lay in breaking the other's will to fight. But as the Empire's ships loomed ever closer to Earth, it seemed as though humanity might not have enough time to learn how to fully unlock the artifact's potential. Back in the war room on Earth, Dr. Steele's team had made a breakthrough. The energy signatures from the artifact were now more stable, and they had discovered a way to amplify its power even further. But there was a catch. The artifact's full potential came with a dangerous price. Harnessing its power could cause catastrophic consequences. But at this point, there was no choice. The humans needed more firepower if they were going to stand a chance. "General," Dr. Steele called out, her voice urgent, "we can increase the power of our supercarrier's weapons, but we have to act quickly. The artifact's energy will soon spiral out of control. We have only one shot at this." Knox didn't hesitate. "Do it. We don't have time for second guesses." The human fleet's firepower increased exponentially as the artifact's energy flowed through their weapons. The supercarriers, now glowing with the energy of the ancient technology, launched a full-scale counterattack. The Empire's dreadnoughts were hit with a barrage of concentrated firepower that tore through their defenses. General Volker, watching the battle unfold, clenched his fists in fury. They should have been destroyed by now. How are they still holding on? The Empire was losing ships, but they weren't ready to admit defeat. The Galactic Empire had never faced anything like this. What had started as a simple raid to suppress a weak species was quickly turning into a fight for survival. The war between Earth and the Galactic Empire had escalated to catastrophic proportions. Earth's supercarriers, empowered by the mysterious artifact, had fought valiantly against the overwhelming might of the Empire's fleet. But with each passing hour, it became more evident that the humans were facing a battle they might not survive. The artifact's power, while incredible, was unstable, and as the Empire continued to press its advantage, the human fleet was beginning to lose ground. General Knox stood at the helm of the vanguard, watching as the battlefield unfolded before him. The once proud fleet of Earth's supercarriers was now a shadow of its former self. Many ships had already fallen, consumed by the Empire's relentless barrage. The remaining carriers were struggling to maintain their energy, their shields flickering dangerously as the artifact's unstable power coursed through them. "We can't keep this up much longer," General Knox muttered, eyes scanning the damage reports flashing across his screen. "The artifact's power is starting to break down. If we don't do something soon, we'll lose everything." Beside him, Dr. Steele stood, her brow furrowed in concentration. She had been working tirelessly to stabilize the artifact's energy, but the strain was beginning to take its toll. The artifact's power, while offering incredible offensive capabilities, was slowly tearing apart the systems that relied on it. The technology was too foreign, too alien, for humanity to control without consequences. "We have one last chance," Dr. Steele said, her voice tight with urgency. "I've discovered a way to channel all of the artifact's remaining energy into one final strike. If we do it now, we can disable the Empire's fleet. But it's risky. We could lose the artifact. And everything we've worked for." Knox didn't hesitate. "Do it." In space, the Empire's fleet had begun to regroup. The dreadnoughts and destroyers that had been damaged in the earlier engagement were pulling back, their repairs underway. Volker, watching the fight from the command center of the Dominion, was furious. The humans had defied all expectations, and while his fleet had inflicted significant damage, he could not afford to let them continue to fight. They had to be broken, once and for all. "We need to crush their remaining forces," Volker growled, his eyes narrowing as he watched Earth's ships regrouping. "Prepare the fleet for the final assault. No mercy." The Empire's forces were ready to strike, their weapons primed and their ships moving into position. The final push to eliminate the human threat was about to begin. Back on Earth, the last few remaining supercarriers were preparing for the final battle. The artifact, now glowing with an intense, unstable light, hummed in the heart of the vanguard. Dr. Steele stood before the control panel, her hands trembling as she adjusted the settings. The power readings were spiking, dangerously so. But this was it. There was no other choice. "General, I'm initiating the final sequence," Dr. Steele said. "Brace yourself. This will be our one shot." On the bridge, General Knox turned to face the crew, his voice calm despite the weight of the moment. "This is it, people. We hold the line. No matter what happens, we fight until the end. For Earth, for humanity." The crew nodded solemnly, understanding the magnitude of the situation. Outside the window, the Empire's fleet loomed, ready to launch its final offensive. The human fleet had taken heavy losses, but they still had one final card to play. As the supercarriers aligned their weapons, Earth's final hope hung in the balance. The artifact's energy surged, crackling with raw, untamed power. Dr. Steele worked quickly, her hands moving across the control panel as she channeled every ounce of the artifact's remaining power into a single devastating blast. The supercarrier's weapons glowed brighter than the sun, charging up for the most powerful shot humanity had ever fired. Volker, sensing the impending danger, ordered his fleet to fire. Beams of energy erupted from the Empire's ships, streaking toward Earth's remaining supercarriers. The final battle had begun. But just as the Empire's weapons reached their target, Earth's counterattack was unleashed. A massive surge of energy erupted from the vanguard and the remaining supercarriers. The artifact's power, now fully harnessed, was directed toward the Empire's fleet in one devastating blast. The energy was unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. It tore through space, obliterating entire fleets of dreadnoughts and destroyers in an instant. The shockwave of power radiated outward, consuming everything in its path. For a moment, the entire battlefield was silent. The stars themselves seemed to dim as the shockwave passed through, leaving a vast emptiness in its wake. General Volker stared at the devastation, his eyes wide in disbelief. His fleet, once the pinnacle of the Empire's power, had been torn apart in the blink of an eye. The humans had done the unthinkable. The artifact had given them the power to turn the tide of battle, and now the Empire's ships were scattered, broken, and defeated. "No, this cannot be," Volker whispered, his voice filled with rage and disbelief. The remaining Empire ships, battered and broken, began to retreat. The once mighty fleet was in full retreat, fleeing the human onslaught. Back on Earth, Dr. Steele and General Knox stood in silence as they watched the final moments of the battle unfold. The Empire's retreat was a victory, but it came at a great cost. The artifact's power had been fully drained, its energy spent in the final strike. The supercarriers, now devoid of the artifact's energy, were little more than hulking ruins floating in space. But for Earth, the victory was worth the sacrifice. "We did it," General Knox said, his voice heavy with exhaustion and relief. "We stopped them." Dr. Steele nodded, her face tired but resolute. "We stopped them, for now." The war was over, but humanity's struggle had just begun. The artifact, a symbol of Earth's defiance, had given them the strength to fight back against an overwhelming enemy. But what would happen next? The Empire had retreated, but they would not forget this defeat. Earth's victory had shaken the very foundation of the Galactic Empire, and the Empire would not rest until they had their revenge. Though the Empire had been forced into retreat, their defeat at the hands of humanity's supercarriers was a humiliation they could not easily forget. General Volker, the once proud commander of the fleet, had barely escaped the battle alive. His flagship, the Dominion, was barely holding together, its hull scarred by the devastating blast that had crippled the Imperial fleet. The power of the humans' artifact, while now depleted, had sent shockwaves through the entire Galactic Empire. Their invincibility had been shattered in an instant. As the Dominion limped back to the Empire's capital, Volker stood on the bridge, brooding over the events that had transpired. His crew moved frantically, repairing what they could, but the damage was extensive. The Empire had suffered severe losses, and the humiliation of being bested by what they had once considered a primitive race was unbearable. The humans had done the unthinkable, and it would not go unpunished. "We will make them regret this," Volker muttered to himself, his eyes burning with hatred. His advisors stood nearby, tense and silent. They, too, could feel the weight of the Empire's defeat. The question now was how to recover, how to retaliate against these audacious humans who had dared to challenge the might of the Galactic Empire. Volker clenched his fists, a plan already forming in his mind. "We cannot allow Earth to remain a threat," Volker said, turning toward his advisors. "We will rebuild, and we will strike again. The humans will pay for what they've done." On Earth, the victory felt bittersweet. The battle had been won, but at a heavy cost. The supercarriers, once powered by the mysterious artifact, were now mere husks of their former selves. The energy from the artifact had been drained entirely, leaving the humans without their strongest weapon. The Empire's retreat had given them a brief moment of relief, but that relief was tempered by the uncertainty of what would come next. General Knox and Dr. Steele stood in the war room, the holographic displays showing the aftermath of the battle. The Empire had retreated, but the human fleet was in ruins. The artifact, the key to their victory, was gone. The remaining ships were severely damaged, and the loss of life was staggering. Earth had won, but at what cost? "We can't rely on the artifact anymore," Dr. Steele said quietly, her voice filled with concern. "We need to rebuild, to recover, but the Empire won't leave us alone. They won't forget this." General Knox nodded, his expression grim. "We'll have to prepare for the worst. We may have won the battle, but this war is far from over. The Empire will come back. We need to be ready for whatever they throw at us next." Elsewhere in the galaxy, the news of Earth's victory spread quickly. The Galactic Empire was not one to take defeat lightly, and whispers of revenge echoed through its vast network of colonies and military outposts. The humans had proven themselves capable of defying the most advanced military in the galaxy, and the Empire could not allow that to stand. Back on the Empire's homeworld, Emperor Krull sat in his grand chamber, gazing out at the stars. He had watched the reports of the battle, and seen firsthand how the humans had destroyed his fleet with the power of the mysterious artifact. His lips curled into a sneer as he pondered the implications of Earth's unexpected victory. "They should have been crushed," the Emperor muttered. "This cannot stand. We will eradicate them, once and for all." Krull turned to his most trusted advisors. "Prepare the fleet. This time, we will not underestimate them. Earth will burn, and we will take the artifact for ourselves." The Empire's new plan was simple but devastating. The entire force of the Empire would be brought to bear on Earth. The remaining Imperial ships, newly reinforced and repaired, would launch a full-scale invasion of Earth's solar system. This time, they would be prepared for the unexpected. Back on Earth, the humans knew that their victory, however sweet, was only temporary. The Empire was rebuilding, and soon enough, they would come back with even greater force. Earth's leaders, including General Knox and Dr. Steele, had begun preparing for the next phase of the war. Dr. Steele had been working tirelessly on a way to create new weapons that could replicate the artifact's power. While the artifact itself was gone, its energy patterns had left behind valuable data. The human scientists had been studying this data for weeks, and they were determined to find a way to harness that power again, or at least something close to it. "We've only scratched the surface of what the artifact can do," Dr. Steele said, her voice filled with determination. "If we can reverse engineer its technology, we might be able to create something even stronger." But the pressure was mounting. Time was running out. The Empire was no longer just a distant threat. It was an impending storm, and Earth had to be ready for what was coming. We're going to need more than just new weapons, General Knox said, looking out at the Earth's skyline, his mind racing. We'll need to rally every single person on this planet. We're fighting for our survival. As the days passed, Earth began to prepare for the inevitable. Civilians, scientists, and military personnel alike began working together, pooling their knowledge and resources. The human spirit, tested by the brutal conflict, had never been stronger. People across the world knew that the Empire would be back, and when they came, they would come with everything they had. Earth's only hope now lay in unity and determination. On the distant fringes of the galaxy, the Empire was regrouping, planning its next move. The defeat at the hands of the humans had only fueled their rage. Their fleet was larger, more powerful than ever before. Earth's victory had been a fluke, an anomaly. The Empire was going to correct that mistake. The Galactic Empire had regrouped, its fleets reinforced, its anger boiling over. The Emperor's decree was clear. Earth would fall, and humanity would be eradicated for their insolence. The remnants of the Empire's once proud forces had been rebuilt, and their next move was inevitable. Earth was about to face the most devastating assault in its history, and its defenders knew the stakes could not be higher. The last battle for survival had arrived. In the war rooms of Earth's military command, General Knox stood with Dr. Steele, surrounded by top officials, engineers, and strategists. The mood was tense, but their resolve was unbreakable. They had survived against all odds before, but the coming battle would demand everything they had. "We don't have the luxury of time," General Knox said, staring at the holographic map of the solar system. "The Empire's fleet is already moving toward us. We need to strike first, or we risk losing everything." Dr. Steele nodded, her eyes scanning the data that had been pouring in. The Empire was on the move. Massive warships, dreadnoughts, and cruisers converging on Earth's defenses. But despite the overwhelming power of the enemy, humanity had something the Empire couldn't predict: unity, creativity, and the drive to survive. "The artifact's power may be gone, but we have learned from it," Dr. Steele said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "We've developed new weapons that could replicate some of its effects, maybe even improve upon them. But we can't do this alone. We'll need every ship, every fighter, every soldier Earth can spare." General Knox took a deep breath. "We'll need to fight smarter, not harder. We can't outgun them, but we can outthink them." Out in space, the Empire's fleet was advancing. Volker, now fully restored and furious, stood on the bridge of the Dominion, looking out at the approaching Earth. The hum of the engines and the beeping of consoles filled the air as the fleet prepared for the final push. They were ready. This time, there would be no mercy. The humans had dared to resist, and now they would pay for their arrogance. "Prepare the fleet," Volker ordered. "Target all major human installations. Destroy their defenses before they have a chance to retaliate. This time, we finish them." Back on Earth, the human fleet was assembling, a desperate and untested force of remaining supercarriers, smaller ships, and newly developed weapons. The humans knew they couldn't win in a straight-up battle, so they would use every advantage they had: surprise, strategy, and the element of chaos. General Knox walked among the crew, offering words of encouragement to those who had volunteered to fight in what was expected to be humanity's final stand. "Stay focused, stay united," he said to a group of soldiers preparing for their missions. "We've come this far together. No matter what happens, remember, we're fighting for everything. For Earth, for our families, for the future." As the two fleets drew closer to each other in the black void of space, tension mounted. The human forces were ready, their ships loaded with the new weapons developed by Dr. Steele and her team. But even with all their preparation, they knew that the Empire's forces vastly outnumbered them. The human fleet was small, and their resources were stretched thin. Still, their determination was unmatched. The first shots rang out in the darkness of space as the two fleets collided. The Empire's ships fired in perfect unison, their weapons cutting through space like deadly lightning. The human fleet responded with a barrage of missiles and laser fire, but their weapons were less powerful, smaller in scope. Still, the humans fought with everything they had, pushing the Empire's forces back just a little. General Knox watched the battle unfold on the bridge of the Vanguard. His ship was holding strong, but the enemy was relentless. Explosions rang out as the battle intensified. Earth's supercarriers launched wave after wave of fighter jets, each one trying to break through the Empire's lines. "Hold the line," Knox muttered under his breath. "We're not giving up this time." Dr. Steele stood in her lab, monitoring the readings from the Vanguard and the other ships in the fleet. Her heart raced as she watched the live data. Every second counted now. She could see the humans were putting up a good fight, but they were outgunned, outnumbered. She knew the Empire's fleet had far more firepower, and the longer the battle raged, the more they risked losing. Then something caught her eye. An anomaly in the data. The energy signatures from the Empire's lead ships seemed different, almost like they were charging up for something bigger. A trap. The Empire was planning something devastating. "General," Dr. Steele called over the comms, urgency in her voice. "The Empire is preparing a superweapon, something on a scale we've never seen before. If they fire that, we won't survive." General Knox's voice crackled through the comms. "Can we stop it?" "We're working on it," Dr. Steele replied. "But we need time." The Empire's fleet moved into its final position. Volker stood before his commanders, a malicious smile on his face. "Prepare to fire the superweapon. This will be the end of the human threat." The Dominion's main cannon began to power up. A brilliant beam of energy formed at its center, the size of a small moon. The Empire's fleets had invested everything into this one weapon, and it would deliver a devastating blow to Earth. Back on Earth, Dr. Steele's eyes widened as the countdown began. There was no time left. "We have to act now," she yelled, turning to the crew. General Knox, still leading the charge from the front lines, received the message. "Do it. We have no other choice." In one final, desperate attempt, humanity's last weapon, a re-engineered version of the artifact's power, was activated. The human fleet focused all its remaining energy into one concentrated beam, aimed directly at the Empire's superweapon. The blast fired just in time, and as the two beams collided in space, an explosion of unimaginable force erupted. The shockwave rippled outward, shattering everything in its path. For a moment, everything went silent. The battle was over. The human fleet was gone, destroyed in the blast. But so was the Empire's superweapon.